Emma stood frozen in her party dress, clutching glittery invitations, hours before the guests arrived, when I told her the pool party was canceled. Her smile cracked, my stomach turned. The HOA had shut us down without warning, and they thought I'd just take it. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. Emma's 8th birthday was supposed to be a celebration of everything she'd worked so hard for. Yes, even 8-year-olds have goals. She had learned to swim without floaties that spring, a huge accomplishment for her. That pool was her arena, her finish line. Every time we drove past it, she'd squeal, "That's my birthday pool," and I'd smile, because it was. Until it wasn't. After Janice's smug dismissal, "You're welcome to have the party in your driveway," I stood there, stunned. I actually laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so brazenly cruel that my brain mistook it for satire. Who says that to a parent, to a child? "This isn't just a barbecue," I said, trying to stay calm. "My daughter has been planning this for months. She's already told all her friends." Janice tapped her pen against her clipboard. "We didn't approve the party," she said, deadpan. I pulled out the email confirmation. I had receipts, PDFs, timestamps, even the cleared payment from my bank, but she waved it away. "There was a clerical error. You weren't supposed to be approved. It's not personal." Not personal. Try telling that to a little girl who's been practicing her cannonball every day after school. When I got back to the car, I just sat there with the engine running, air conditioning on full blast, staring at the wheel like it had answers. I should have been figuring out cake pickup times, party favors, floaties. Instead, I was scrambling to understand how a group of retirees with clipboards had just pulled the rug out from under a child's birthday. That night, Emma asked if we could get extra pool noodles. "Because Mia likes pink ones and Liam only uses the blue ones." I smiled and nodded. I couldn't bring myself to say anything. The words felt like shattered glass in my throat. Later, after she went to sleep, I stayed up Googling bounce houses, private pool rentals, even hotel day passes. Everything was either fully booked or outrageously expensive. I could swing it financially if I really stretched things, but it wouldn't be her party. It wouldn't be what she'd dreamed of for months. It would be Plan B. And I knew Emma. She'd smile and pretend it was fine, but she'd know something was off. The magic would be gone. The next day, I went back to the pool, just to look, maybe to plead with a different board member, maybe to see if the calendar had magically opened back up. What I saw instead, a laminated sign zip-tied to the gate. Pool closed for private event, May 18th, 2 p.m., 6 p.m. That was our slot, the exact time. I stood there, gripping the fence, trying to make sense of it. Who got the spot? Who did they give it to? An older man in cargo shorts walked up behind me. "You with the wedding?" he asked. "Wedding?" I turned to him. "What wedding?" He squinted at the sign. "Somebody's granddaughter or niece or something. Heard it's going to be a whole big thing, canopies, catering, even live music. They're setting up early." I felt something in my chest twist and snap. So it wasn't a scheduling conflict, it wasn't an accident. They gave our slot, my daughter's birthday, to someone else. Someone they liked better, or owed a favor to, or wanted to impress. It was never about the rules. It was about them. That night, Emma asked if she could go to the pool early and help decorate. I told her maybe. Then I excused myself, went into the garage, and screamed into an old beach towel until my voice broke. Because this wasn't just about a birthday. This was about being invisible. About how easily they erased us. About how my daughter's joy had been weighed, measured, and found unworthy. And I wasn't going to let them get away with it. The war had started with a whisper, a clipped email, a bureaucratic brush-off, but now it burned behind my ribs like fire. I wasn't just angry, I was focused. Janice thought she'd won, canceling Emma's birthday like it was a committee item on a Wednesday agenda. But I was done playing by her rigged rules. This wasn't about a party anymore. It was about dignity, about drawing a line. The HOA bylaws were dry, overly formal, and stuffed with passive-aggressive clauses, but I read them like scripture. Each line was a crack in their armor. I highlighted sections, took notes, cross-referenced clauses, and then, buried in the dense legalese, no more than 3 reservations per household per calendar month. That was their limit, but it said nothing about how many households could coordinate. That's when it hit me. Janice had made this personal, so I would make it collective. Natalie, my old college friend turned real estate attorney, picked up after 2 rings. I laid out the plan. Her laughter cut through the tension like a match to kerosene. "It's absurdly petty," she said, "which means it's perfect." We mobilized like a miniature insurgency. My wife, my brother, my parents, 2 neighbors who owed me favors. Each one submitted official requests to reserve the pool. Not all for the same weekend. No, that would have been too obvious. We staggered them, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, afternoons only, to maximize visibility and impact. A rolling wall of perfectly legitimate family pool picnics, each booked precisely 31 days ahead as the bylaws required. The reservation forms were filled out meticulously, fees paid, confirmation emails printed. We dotted every I, crossed every T, and triple-checked the dates. There wasn't a single technicality Janice could hide behind. For nearly a week, nothing happened. I half expected a visit, or at least a passive-aggressive phone call. But there was silence. And then, boom. On Thursday morning, the neighborhood email list lit up. Subject, urgent, abuse of pool privileges. Janice's tone practically bled through the screen. It has come to the board's attention that certain residents have engaged in a coordinated attempt to monopolize the community pool. This behavior is disruptive, unsportsmanlike, and contrary to the spirit of our HOA. We are investigating these actions and will take any necessary steps to restore fairness and order. She didn't name me, of course. That would have opened her to liability, but we all knew. Within hours, replies started rolling in from other residents, some annoyed, others amused. Are these reservations legal? Did someone break a rule? Is the HOA going to refund the reservation fees? Janice didn't reply to any of them, because she couldn't. There was no bylaw violation, no rule broken. We'd simply used the system she built better than she ever had. And then Saturday arrived. We pulled out every stop for Emma's party. My brother brought over a Bluetooth speaker and played every kid-friendly pop song on her playlist. My wife organized a floaty obstacle course in the deep end. The cake was 3 tiers high, with edible glitter and little sugar dolphins. Emma wore a new swimsuit with sequins that shimmered like fish scales in the sun. Her laugh, sharp, pure, unfiltered, cut through the air like music. Other kids splashed and shouted, parents mingled. The smell of sunscreen, watermelon, and barbecue filled the pool deck. It was joy. Earned joy. And behind the neatly trimmed hedge, just far enough to avoid a trespassing complaint, stood Janice. Rigid, watching, her mouth a tight line, her phone out, probably recording or photographing, or, more likely, seething in impotent rage. She looked like a woman who had just been checkmated by someone she thought couldn't read the board. I didn't wave. I didn't smirk. I just turned back to Emma, who was now mid-cannonball, arms flung wide like wings. This was her day, and no hedge, no email, no HOA power trip was going to take that from her again. The transformation wasn't loud. It didn't come with picket signs or angry meetings. It came with burgers on a charcoal grill, with cannonballs and squeals of delight. The HOA pool, once a sterile, rule-bound patch of concrete overseen like a museum exhibit, was reborn as a place of life, warmth, and unfiltered joy. It began subtly. The first family picnic after Emma's party was casual. Hot dogs, folding chairs, coolers filled with Capri Sun and sparkling water. But something shifted in the air. For years, neighbors had avoided the pool, not because they didn't want to use it, but because they didn't want to deal with her. Janice. The glare from the office window, the clipboard inspections, the whispered warnings about noise and appropriate conduct. But now, with our names covering the reservation calendar like a row of dominoes, something strange happened. People felt safe to show up. By the second weekend, families we barely knew brought snacks to share. Someone wheeled in a karaoke machine and let their kids belt out Disney songs between swims. I hauled in a projector and pinned up a white sheet along the fence. That night, Finding Nemo played under the stars, while kids floated in inner tubes and parents sipped wine from paper cups, laughing softly over the soundtrack. There was no formal plan, just momentum, a shared unspoken agreement that this was what the community pool was supposed to be. Not a symbol of control, but of community. The more Janice simmered in silence, the more people showed up with pool noodles and lawn chairs. By week 3, the grill was practically a permanent fixture. We had theme weekends, taco night, pajama swim, a slip and slide day where someone rolled out tarps across the grassy area and doused them with dish soap and water from the garden hose. Kids lined up screaming with joy, their hair plastered to their cheeks, their parents cheering them on like Olympic coaches. I kept paying the reservation fees, I kept submitting the forms, every single one. Janice tried to find holes, reasons to reject them, but they were airtight, legally flawless. And now they were public, because the best part wasn't the pool itself, it was what bloomed around it. One afternoon, I caught 2 young moms in conversation near the shallow end. They weren't talking about sunscreen or snacks. They were talking about the HOA board elections in October. I didn't even think to run, one said, but this whole thing with the pool, it made me realize we don't have to be silent. We can vote. We can lead. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. Natalie's husband, Ben, a quiet guy with a background in local zoning law, submitted his name for a board seat soon after. Another candidate followed, Melissa, a single mom who had lived in the neighborhood for 5 years and had never once been spoken to at a board meeting. Election night wasn't dramatic. There were no fireworks, just ballots cast in a rented room at the community center. But when the results were read, Janice's name wasn't among the winners. She didn't speak, didn't even make eye contact as she folded her papers and left. And so it ended. The next board meeting was surreal. Same room, same chairs. But the air felt different. Emma insisted on coming with me. She wore her glitteriest sandals and carried a handmade card she had worked on all week. When the new board members introduced themselves, she walked up to the table, climbed onto a chair, and handed Janice the card. "Thank you for canceling my party," she said with perfect sincerity, "because it made it so much better." Janice didn't respond. Her fingers tightened around the glittery cardstock as her lips thinned. The card read, in rainbow letters, "Pool Queen Forever." There was no gloating, just a moment of quiet where the absurdity and truth of it all settled like mist. Because this wasn't revenge, it wasn't even justice in the traditional sense. It was restoration. It was joy reclaiming space. And for me, it was a lesson in how love, when channeled through creativity and calm resistance, could beat power at its own game. I still reserve the pool sometimes, not to provoke, not to flex, just because Emma likes it. Every time I see her floating on her back, squinting up at the clouds, I remember this was never about a pool. It was about showing her what it means to stand up, not just for yourself, but for what's right. And if it took a few glitter bombs and barbecue Sundays to get there, so be it.